Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy A26 and compare it against the Samsung Galaxy A16 and see which particular phone is the better one for you. Now, the big thing I can definitely tell you is that when it comes down to both these devices, there's not really one that I would look at as being like the best one in every single way. There's clearly some advantages of one over the other one, but the way they're supposed to be laid out is the Galaxy A16 is supposed to be a little bit of a cheaper, worse phone than the Galaxy A26, and the A26 is supposed to be cheaper and worse than the A36, so on and so forth. So you have to keep in mind the price when you're looking at both these phones. So we'll take a look at that throughout this whole entire video. First things first though, if you want to pick up some phones that I would already recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these phones. The Samsung Galaxy A16 came out a little bit late last year, and on the front side of this phone, you are basically getting a 6.7-inch Super AMOLED display. Now, with this type of phone, it's a pretty big sized panel. You're getting pretty thin bezels around it for the most part, like they look a lot thinner than they really are. You're getting a little bit of a bezel at the bottom, the Infinity U display, and it's not a terrible looking display panel. This thing, like I said, it's very, very big for its size. It's 800 nits of brightness, and it is giving you a 90 Hz panel at that as well. So that right there is actually pretty nice to have. Like, I love being able to go through and, pick up these types of phones that are giving you that type of capability. And this type of display is actually not too bad. And again, for its price, it's not too bad, but it isn't really like the best looking device panel anymore. But I do think if you are going to go through and pick up a phone, this thing really doesn't look that bad in my personal opinion for like a super cheap, ultra budget phone that came out last year. With the Galaxy A26, this phone is giving you relatively around the same sized screen. So this thing is also giving you a 6.7-inch Super AMOLED display. So it's the same exact size for the most part. You are getting a 120 Hz panel inside of that particular device. So it is really nice to be able to go through and get a 120 Hz panel, because even phones like an iPhone 16e still aren't giving you that, which I think is absolutely insane. But you are getting some sort of capability there, which is something I actually like seeing a lot. So from that side in and of itself, that is kind of a nice thing that's going on there within this particular device when it comes down to it. Now, both these phones are basically giving you these, USB Type-C ports at the bottom. So that's always nice to have. I love having USB Type-C, and you're essentially getting that here on both these types of phones. You're getting your microSD card slot inside of these phones too, like you do have the option of basically getting that type of capability right there. So that right there in and of itself, again, is another really cool thing that's going on here as well. On top of that, there's not really anything else super insane going on here. When you go to the back side of both these phones, it's kind of interesting because the Galaxy A26 is giving you this glass back. The Galaxy A16 is giving you this plastic back. So this is kind of interesting because historically these phones have all had like plastic backs. But now it looks like we're getting a little bit, we're getting some more improvements here when it comes down to these types of devices. And I do think that is in and of itself a really, really cool, nice thing that's going on for these types of phones, that Samsung's kind of improving these. Then we have the triple camera setup. I do think the Galaxy A26 kind of does look a little bit nicer than the Galaxy A16, especially with that backside camera situation. So I do think that is in and of itself kind of one of those big things to keep in mind. But I think both these phones look good. I think both these phones look great. And if you are going to go through and pick up a phone, I do think for the most part, a phone like a Samsung Galaxy, A16 still looks decent for the price, but the Galaxy A26 is definitely a little bit nicer looking in my personal opinion. Now, on top of that, when it does kind of come down to the layouts, especially when it comes down to their prices, the Galaxy A16 costs about $175. The Galaxy A26 cost about $293. Now, I feel like both these phones are kind of overpriced for what you're paying for, to be honest. So these aren't super cheap phones anymore, right? These are pretty expensive devices. So that right there is going to be one of those big, massive things to keep in mind there too, because you can definitely buy a different type of device for not that much more expensive. So I would kind of say that is kind of a big thing to keep in mind there from that side. Now, on top of that, when it kind of does come down to some other areas of these phones, you're going to have to remember that with something like a Samsung Galaxy A26 and the A16, they're both giving you triple camera setups on the backside. So this is one of those things to keep in mind here too. So if you're going to go through and pick up a phone like the Galaxy A26, right, has a higher likelihood with its camera setup to kind of outpace something like the Galaxy A16. You're getting 50 megapixel wide, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera on the A26, and a 2 megapixel macro lens. Whereas on something like the Samsung Galaxy A16, you're getting a 50 megapixel wide, 5 megapixel ultra wide, and 2 megapixel macro lens. the thing with both these phones, right, and this is somewhat of the problem that we're kind of running into within both of them, is that with a device like the Samsung Galaxy A16, this one is only giving you 1080p video on the backside, which I do think is kind of a disadvantage. Like if you're going to go through and pick up a phone, it's much nicer to be able to go through and buy a device that is going to be giving you a little bit better capability when it comes down to that camera layout. And the A16 is basically already like a pretty outdated phone when it comes down to it. The same thing with the A26, to be honest. Like I do feel like that phone in and of itself too is really like a lackluster type of phone. It's going to be a lackluster type of experience. So both these phones are going to be kind of lacking there when it kind of comes down to it. So I would probably tell you from that side, if you are going to go through and pick up a phone, that one might not be the best one to go and buy. Neither one of these, to be honest with you. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there too. When it comes down to software longevity, both these phones are still supported with software. They're not really going anywhere anytime soon, which is nice. So both these phones are still going to be here for quite a bit of time. So I think that is kind of a nice thing to keep in mind there too. If you're going to be able to pick up a phone, either one of these are going to be lasting for, a couple more years. So you don't really have too much to worry about there when it comes down to that side either, which again is always like a nice thing to kind of think about. When it does kind of come down to their batteries though, they're both giving you pretty much the same size battery. They're both 5,000 mAh. So there's not really too much to worry about there when it comes down to that type of device, because you're relatively going to be getting still like a really good update when it comes down to both these phones. In terms of performance, the Galaxy A26 is basically going to be going through and giving you that Exynos 1380 or 1280 chipset with 4 to 8 gigs of RAM, where the Galaxy A16 is going to be giving you that Exynos 1330 or the MediaTek Dimensity 6300 chipset with 4 to 8 gigs of RAM. So this right here is also going to be another one of those interesting things to keep in mind, because if you're going to go through and like pick up a phone, you probably want to go through and buy the device that's going to be giving you a better type of experience. And within both, the Galaxy A26 is going to be the faster phone by a little bit, but it's not really even going to be that much, to be honest. Like these two phones are still going to be fairly slow, and I would hate for you to go through and like buy a device if it's already going to be like a slow or outdated type of phone, right? Like you are much better off buying a device that is going to be giving you like better experience almost every single way. And honestly, I don't really think either one of these phones are good for the price. Like they're decent phones, they're giving you like decent experience, but like they're not really giving you like great performance or great anything. Like that's kind of the issue that you're running into. So that's why I kind of look at phones like a Samsung Galaxy S23 or iPhone 14 Pro or Google Pixel 8. Like those phones I think would probably be the overall better ones to go and buy rather than these ones. These phones I think are okay for a brand new phone for this year, but I don't think they're good for the price. I think there's way better options like I had mentioned, like a used Pixel 8, a used iPhone 14 Pro, or use Samsung Galaxy S23. So those are kind of the ones I'd recommend buying this year. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.